A single dad inherited a Cliffside home, who he saw inside changed his entire life. The wind slammed against the cliffside that morning as if trying to warn him, but Daniel still pushed open the rusted iron gate with a trembling hand. He had come to claim a house he never asked for, a house he never knew existed until the letter arrived, telling him he was now the owner of a lonely stone home hanging over the roaring sea. He stepped forward with his 7-year-old daughter's hand locked inside his, both of them unaware that the moment they crossed that threshold, nothing in their lives would ever be the same again. Because inside that forgotten house, someone was waiting. And that someone wasn't supposed to be there. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and life-changing moments, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KHstories. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Daniel's life had never been simple, but in the last year it had become a storm he could barely walk through. Losing his wife to a sudden illness had hollowed him out, turning every morning into a battle of willpower and every night into a quiet collapse. He worked long shifts at a construction company just to keep food on the table, often returning home exhausted but still forcing a laugh for his little girl, Mia, who was the only reason he woke up every day. He did everything alone, the breakfast rush, the lunches packed in old containers, the late-night homework sessions, and the moments he hid his tears behind the bathroom door because he didn't want his daughter to feel the heaviness he carried. So when the letter arrived, saying his late mother's estranged brother had left him a cliffside house in a small coastal town, Daniel assumed it was a mistake. He had no relationship with that side of the family, no memories of them, no emotional ties. But the weight of unpaid bills and the rising costs of city life pushed him to take the trip. Maybe the house could be sold. Maybe it could be the fresh start they desperately needed. But as the bus rolled into the quiet town with its narrow roads and distant horizon of endless blue water, Daniel felt something shift. The air smelled of salt and old stories. The cliffside house looked ancient but proud, built of stone and wood with windows facing the angry waves that crashed below. It felt isolated yet strangely alive. With Mia beside him, he pushed the front door open, expecting dust and silence. Instead, he froze. Someone was inside. At first he thought it was a shadow, a trick of the dim light, but then the figure stepped forward. A woman in her late 60s, with tired eyes, soft gray hair, and a fragile posture that suggested years of waiting. She looked at Daniel as though she had been expecting him for a long time. The house didn't feel abandoned anymore. It felt inhabited, cared for, lived in. And Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. Over the coming minutes, he learned that her name was Eleanor, and she had been the caretaker of the cliffside home for over 30 years. What shocked him more was her next revelation. She had promised his late uncle that if Daniel ever came, she would tell him the truth he was never supposed to grow up with. His uncle had insisted the house stay in the family, but with it, the past too would have to be returned to the rightful owner. As Daniel stood in the middle of the living room, his daughter quietly inspecting seashells on a table, Eleanor revealed that his uncle had kept something hidden, something that connected directly to Daniel's mother. The home, the inheritance, the sudden involvement of a stranger, everything felt surreal. But as the story unfolded, the truth slowly began stitching itself together. Daniel's mother had once lived in this house as a young woman. She had left under painful circumstances she never shared with her son. Eleanor explained that Daniel's mother had been in love with someone the family disapproved of, and when heartbreak struck, she ran away to the city, never returning. She had cut herself off completely, leaving behind unresolved bitterness, unspoken grief, and unanswered letters. When she passed away, her brother, Daniel's uncle, carried guilt he never knew how to fix. So when he died, he left the house to Daniel, hoping it would somehow reconnect the pieces that had been broken long before Daniel was even born. But the biggest shock came when Eleanor slowly opened an old wooden chest. Inside lay photographs, journals, and letters written by Daniel's mother. Letters she had never sent. Letters meant for him. Letters written during the hardest years of her life, her struggles, her dreams, her regrets, and her endless love for the son she raised alone. Daniel, a grown man who had not cried in years, felt tears spill uncontrollably as he held the letters with shaking hands. For the first time since her passing, he felt like he could hear her voice again. The Cliffside house became something different that day. Not a burden, not a mystery, but a bridge between the past and the present, between loss and healing. Over the next weeks, Daniel stayed in the house with Mia. Eleanor taught him how his mother used to sit near the window during sunsets, how she loved the sound of the waves, and how she used to bake bread with her brother before their fallout. Daniel began to see his mother in the walls, the old furniture, the scent of lavender that still lingered in her old room. And though the memories weren't his, they slowly became a part of him. But healing never arrives without challenges. Daniel's financial situation was still fragile. His job was miles away. He couldn't move permanently without income. Some days he felt